Hello ladies and gentlemen, Asuka here, bringing to you another video about Conqueror's Blade, published by Porus Interactive, and this is a PTR update plus a routine maintenance adjustment notice. So, just really quickly, the routine maintenance adjustment notice states that we won't have an update tomorrow on the September 26th. It's been moved to September 29th. So that is the Sunday, and there will be no routine maintenance on October 3rd. So next week, Thursday, there won't be a maintenance. So it's going to be this maintenance is delayed until the 29th. And then the next maintenance will probably be the 10th of October. Now, again, more details will come, but that is just the routine maintenance adjustments. On to other news, we did get another PTR. Well, we just got news of another PTR, and sign up has been just released. We also have the white paper being released, and it has details about changes to unit balancing, particularly about the unreleased units or the seasonal units coming. So it's about the Swinefeathers and the Lionroar. Very interesting changes for the Lionroar. Very strange changes for the Swinefeathers. Now, there's a lot of things that I'm not sure what they are checking, but it does feel like there are different things that they're considering. And one of the things that they're considering is keeping the doctrine working. And I'm really concerned if they do, it's going to cause a lot of issues, and I mean a lot of issues. Now, unit balance for the Swinefeathers. There's 6 points here. I'll read them all, and I'm going to explain a couple of things that I felt about the Swinefeathers from their PTR. Fix the issue where the exclusive doctrine does not take effect. Fix the issue where certain growth node does not take effect. Reduced base damage. Optimize the process of activating triple shooting without their spear in hand. Added an effect of obscuring charging of added an effect of obstructing charging to um, Cheval de Frise. Added separate long and short press effect to Cheval de Frise. Now, this long and short press effect probably has something similar to the how to say when you place them down or when you activate the ability, it pulls up a menu of wanting you to kind of line up a where you want them. What most people would probably asking for was just a quick press to make them put it down straight away, like a quick brace basically. Okay, let me roll back a little bit. So the first thing I want to point out is that the exclusive doctrine is not taking effect. There are two exclusive doctrines. One of them is super concerning, and I am still upset that they're going to probably leave it as it is because it is crazy that it even exists, first of all, and it is insane that it's going to hit live. I don't normally like talking about doctrines because doctrines are very, very, very hard to get balanced, and units are poorly balanced around doctrines. And what I mean by that is a lot of units are not actually adjusted with doctrines completely in mind, semi in mind. The This has to do with a lot of things that are like a lot of things, but a good example of units that are held back or balance with doctrines in mind is the crossbow units. They don't like the Pavis nor the Demes Arbalest going absolutely batshit insane because the double shot doctrine literally doubles their output for 8 seconds, which means that if they had adequate output, and I mean like adequate output at around about 80, maybe 90% of like some of the other ranged units, they would blow everyone out of the water because they would deal uh they would deal almost twice the amount of damage. We also have to contend that muskets do not have a doctrine that basically doubles their damage, and the arrow rain doctrine has an inbuilt limiter of penalty of the reduced base damage, down to 65% on the base one and down to 75% on the other one. So you have these issues, and I mean, like, arrow rain only nets about a 30% damage increase, so it's basically nothing. The problem with this is that it's a multiplier on top of a multiplier. And this is probably why nerfing the base damage, this is probably why they had to nerf the base damage, which honestly doesn't make sense, considering that their throughput damage is actually lower than, well, probably as low as Imperial Arquebusiers, but they have higher accuracy. So again, I'm not adjusting for accuracy here, which could come to bite me in the ass because good accuracy goes a long way. I mean, Longbowmen, I mean, when they got buffed, like their damage wasn't that great, but the accuracy made it balloon out to be kind of like one of the best range units in the game. It's always only when people use range units at closer range where they're getting outperformed, and it kind of worked out. But and when I'm talking about the initial buff, like 30% attacks, or like some 30% attack speed and increase in accuracy about like to 80%. So the exclusive doctrine I am talking about is the one that I believe I have talked about, which is the fire penetration doctrine. From what I remember, it reads something similar to the Swinefeathers hit two targets, but for only 75% damage and cause knockdown. The problem here is that it doesn't have a conditional stated in the proper way. People have apparently figured out that it only works during triple shooting. I haven't really tested the doctrine itself because again, I don't consider doctrines part of the balance. The unit itself needs to be balanced before you can before you can kind of gauge what things you can add or take away. But at the same time, like we know the systems in place. We know doctrines exist, and we already know what doctrines could apply to them. So it's very difficult to say that doctrines don't have an impact because they certainly do, especially for some lower tier units. Doctrines could easily increase their performance by 50, maybe 80%. And some tier 5s can really abuse certain doctrines and they really doctrines can easily make up for most of the performance issues and definitely can make certain units go out of control. We're talking about this before, but the +1 to charge doctrine for swordsman or the sword and shield, that's basically busted on men at arms. That is the main reason why men at arms do so much burst damage. It's actually not even that painful to get hit by a regular charge by men at arms, but the +1 makes it all the more annoying because it's twice the amount of damage, basically at no cost. So this is kind of a similar thing, but I want to stress that there is other things that are happening when you increase the hit limit. Now, the important thing here is that the Swinefeathers have a default block break. That default block break is roughly 200. I'm not going I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty because we don't even know what the actual block value of things are. But from a rough estimate, it is about 200. If if it helps, try to imagine getting shot by Shenji top line that specifies that they have 200 block break. The thing here is that in the block break doesn't get reduced. From what I understand, there is no modifier for damage, for block damage, when applying to multi-hit, unlike damage. So in this case, the fire penetration is going to hit two targets for 75% damage, but it's going to do full block break damage. So they're going to shred through shields twice as fast. Is that a good thing? Absolutely not. Shields are some of the worst, or some of the most bullied unit type in the game. Nearly every single unit can bully shields, or heavy shield in this case. Regular sword and shields have their dynamic, but what I mean to say is that there's a lot of anti-shield mechanics in the game, and the shields themselves are just not that great when you come up against a unit that deals adequate block break damage. And for a ranged unit to deal block break damage, it has to be very careful about how it works. Now, this is concerning because I have tested a little bit on how difficult it is to block the Swinefeathers, and it is not easy. You will probably not make it to the Swinefeathers before all of your shield units die. That is my guess. You could probably make it, but I don't think you will. Now, another thing about the fire penetration doctrine is the knockdown. That knockdown CC, too strong. The level at which it is too strong. It should be a daze at most, and maybe have a limiter. They essentially are Janissaries, but without the limiter, and have a stronger CC. That's essentially what's happening here. They have a faster setup time, and I mean faster setup time. There's no question about them putting their spears down because the Janissaries have a startup animation and then a placing animation. These guys almost place their spears immediately, about half as long. So there's about half as long, and honestly, it's kind of ridiculous. That being said, the Janissaries have a, well, it was reduced. It was used to be 24 seconds, but it was reduced to 10 seconds for their days. The Swinefeathers is going to be, it's going to be uncapped, from what I understand, on the knockdown. Meaning they could probably pin a unit onto the ground. If it doesn't have CC immunity, it's going to be on the ground as it gets shot. And there is no way you can retaliate or even save your unit in that scenario unless they are a shield unit or have CC immunity. Either one of those two. And even if you were a shield unit, your block will get eviscerated by a single volley. You would lose a third of your unit, a quarter of your unit, followed by another quarter of your unit, and in 4 volleys, your whole unit would be dead. That is if they didn't reduce the base damage. Now, I'm not sure how much they reduced the base damage, but the general output of triple shooting, from what I understand, outputs just about as much damage as Imperial Arquebusiers. And Imperial Arquebusiers can basically drop 13 units, in a single volley. Meaning that within like 10 seconds, Imperial Arquebusiers deal enough damage to just kill a unit. Like, kill a whole unit. Oh, wait, no. Did I do that right? Hmm, maybe I didn't. No, each second, an Imperial Arquebusier unit can kill 3.5 units. Sorry, that was my bad. Um, Similarly, triple shooting will do something similar. It's slightly under 3. Um, it's like 2.8 units a second added with the 50% damage increase because do mine 75% to 2 is a 50% damage increase, so you boost it up to like um 4.2. So that's um yeah, that's 4 units a second. So within 10 seconds your whole unit's dead. Granted, I mean like if it was just raw damage. Now, that is everything to do with triple shooting and stuff. I'm Yeah, that's everything to do with the Swinefeathers. I'm concerned that they don't know what they're doing because they're definitely weakening the unit in some ways where the base effect is so low that you would never use them generically and only run them around and use their abilities, which is really dumb, by the way, because you're sorry, how I remember playing the game is that you use the unit roughly around about 60-70% of the time with their base, and then 30, maybe 20% of the time you would use their ability. Otherwise, you're just running away. Otherwise, you're just running around, positioning. They've condensed it to the point where most of the time you're not even using the unit in its base, like as its base capabilities, because their base capabilities are so ludicrously low. What I mean that by that is like half, maybe even a third of their fire or of their potential when compared to their abilities, which is which is frankly insane because imagine a unit while they're using their ability is literally 2, maybe 3 times stronger than they would obviously be naturally. But that's the kind of game that we're getting. And units are going to appear more like that. Unfortunate, I know. For me, I mean, it's unfortunate. I much really liked the base form of the Swinefeathers. I didn't really like triple shooting being so overloaded. The Their spear ability was also very ridiculous as it was one-shotting stationary cavalry. There was like some kind of weird thing where it would stop the cavalry would take very little damage, and then all of a sudden they would just drop dead. Like they would get stunned, they would rear up, and then just drop dead. It was funny, still weird. All right, moving on to the next. We have the Lionroar crew. I hate this so much because it kind of shows or kind of tells us that we don't know very much about it, or what we knew about it was completely different. So let me just read through what what they say. So the Lion Roar crew unit balance reduce the damage of shells hitting the same enemy, slightly increase the damage of shells, reduce the initial shot shells from 25 to 20, reduce the range from 130 to 60 when they shoot at a target 40 meters away. The damage is reduced to 40%. Shells no longer ignore blocking, but have a high block break effect now. Increase the cooldown of defense shooting. increase their speed of moving and deploying artillery. Fix and optimize related animations. Fix the issue where the unit cannot use defensive shooting when not taking over artillery. Fix the issue where they can only redeploy 2 cannons after cannons were destroyed. Fix skills 3D UI icon and text. All right. Now, the two things that I want to, the one thing I want to point out is that the reduce the initially shot shells from 25 to 20. We thought that the number of pellets was 18. Apparently, it was 25. Goes to show that we knew nothing unless they told us, because we were underbowling a lot of the calculations and we were struggling to figure out what was happening. Some of these things need to be said. Now, this is a massive nerf, by the way. Is this a good thing? Totally, yes. Is this going to kill the unit? No. Okay, let me rewind a bit. Will this kill the unit? Possibly. There are two major things that is very important when considering how strong a unit is. It is the damage, setup, and usability. First of all, the Lionroar crew is very difficult to use in the first place. They were ridiculously powerful that a single shot would be effective. And they had some of the longest range in the game. Well, they've kind of walked that back now. The problem is that they dealt way too much damage. I mean, way too much damage. Even at maximum range, they were still only dealing 50% damage. And this is after, like, their damage at point blank range is literally 3,000 per pellet. And you're telling me that there were 25 of these pellets. That means they dealt the equivalency of, what was it? Man, am I doing calculations wrong? 75,000 damage. Which is kind of funny, because they definitely were killing more than 7 units each shot. Well, if 3 cannons shot a unit, they technically should have only dealt enough damage to kill 21 of the units, but apparently there are some other things happening that allows it to deal way more damage. Which we still don't understand. We still don't know. But be that as it may, it is, as a present of how I can calculate this, dealing enough damage to instantly drop up to 6 models per shot. And do mind, it only takes around about 10 seconds for them to shoot again. To cross 60 meters, most units would not make it before they get shot again. That means they would die. Most units would die by the time they reach the Lionroar crew. Alright. Be that as it may, I am kind of irritated about some other things. I don't like the reduce the damage of the shells hitting the same enemy. That is a stupid and absolutely stupid restriction. The only reason they did that was so that they reduced the chance of one-shotting. This makes particularly high health units more efficient against the Lionroar crew. Why is that? Because individually, a model can take more pellets than others. Like, for example, we have the Iron Cap Spearmen, each having 18,000 health. Raw damage wise, they would only be able to drop 3. If this goes like how I think it's going to go, they're going to only be able to drop 1 model, and then the other one's slightly damaged. Because they're going to make it so that the pellets probably deal half damage, if not more. I mean, if not even less than half damage. The slightly increased the damage of the shells. I'm not certain why they did this, except for the fact that they added so many penalties and trying to get the kind of like one-shot effect at a closer range, which is concerning because they kind of want to keep the one-shot potential, but they don't want to add the restrictions that should come with it, which is the fire rate and definitely the limitations. Well, sorry, they put the limitations there. They reduced the maximum range, by the way. This is the maximum range, not their actual range, which is kind of stupid because they technically haven't been changed from having a range of 80. From what I understand, they their unit stats state that they have a range of 80. Their maximum range used to be 250. They got changed to 130, and now it's going to be changed to 60. So there's that. What I want to also explain is that through my testing, after 80 meters, there was a drastic decrease in damage. At 80 meters, they would do half damage. Up until 80 meters, they're dealing up to like 70-ish%. They don't drop very much. Like from point blank all the way up to 80, you still get over maybe 2,500 damage. Once it drops over 80, you get 1.5. It dropped off a cliff. I don't even know why. I don't even know how they code. I don't even know why they coded it like that. But basically, that's what happened. Now it's telling us that after 40 meters away, they're reducing the damage to 40. That means 60% of their damage is gone. Based on their previous stats, which was 3,000, 40% would only be 1.2. Okay, it's not a lot of damage. That would only drop two models. That means it would only deal enough damage to kill 6 people. You would only kill 6 people beyond 40. But again, you only have a max range of 60, which doesn't actually leave you a lot of leeway. And again, most musket units are 60, but they can hit up to 80. Well, sorry, no, they are 60. I think they hit up to 70. I think only Shenji hit up to 80. Um, I haven't actually, don't quote me on that actually. I'm just now realizing I'm just pulling that out of my ass, and um, I actually do not remember actually testing that out. I do know, I do know that I felt like I know what the termination distance was for a couple of units, um, but I'm now thinking that I might be wrong here. So they're making the Lionroar crew very close range, like super, super stupid close range. Now, I don't think the shells no longer ignore blocking really mattered too much, but this is good in the fact that it's still probably going to decimate shields, but it's not going to be so oppressive where shields are worthless. Um, so you're gonna probably run into a scenario where the shield units will still have to tank the shots, where where it is inevitable, and it is good because it's better than ignoring about 90% of their defensive capabilities. Because you have to remember, a heavy shield unit is only as strong as their actual shield. Their shield is makes up more than the lion's share of their tankiness. And when you face up against units that basically ignores it, you will notice that they're marginally tankier than other units, and that's not a joke. It's true. You have units that are like Iron Cap Spearman that has like 18,000 health. They're not that much tankier than say something like Squires or Prefecture Guards. In certain circumstances, Prefecture Guards are actually very tanky, especially against tier threes and like pole arms and stuff. It 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 has to be compared to like the damage as well, though. So I'm kind of minimizing the differences when the differences could be somewhere from 50, 80%, or maybe even 100% in terms of tankiness of just raw stat, not even including the block. But let's be real here. Most heavy shield units rely on block, and if they're not blocking, they're taking damage. And when you only take twice the amount of damage compared to other units, and other units deal two, three, four, 5 times more damage than the heavy shields, you'll literally have a cost effectiveness issue, which is really easy to solve if you were to just increase the damage of the heavy shields. But no one wants that because apparently heavy shields are only defensive units and they think they should just be able to tank. Again, there is a balance to these things. I think people are just really stupid that they can't see that the issue is units dealing way too much damage, hitting way too many things, and dealing so much extra effect that it just kind of makes everything meaningless. So, yeah, it's great that they removed the blocking effect. I, I mean, ignoring the block effect, it kind of puts the Falconetti gunners back into the limelight. They have a kind of ignore block, a instant pierce, and high block break kind of scenario happening. I'm not even entirely sure what they're doing, but yeah, try surviving getting shot by Falconetti gunners with heavy shield. That doesn't work. Now, I don't like that they increased the cooldown of defense shooting because they literally probably only did that to fix an issue, which I reported it in my feedback, and I think they're doing this only to fix that issue because they can't be bothered fixing defensive shooting. And that is when you use the cooldown doctrine with defensive shooting, it reduces the cooldown to 2 seconds. And it's really funny that no one tested this out, apparently, is when you spam this skill, there is actually a delay every time you hit it. And it increases the more times you hit it. That means there's some kind of an internal limiter that's causing the unit to not fire when you activate the ability, and that keeps stacking up because it seems like defensive shooting doesn't actually have a duration, and it completely bugs out when I get to the stage that I can press defensive shooting twice before they shoot. It's really funny because it completely bugs out, but it's not great that they, rather than fix it, they gloss over the problem and increase the cooldown. Defensive shooting, not a very good skill, by the way. Very trash. Absolutely trash. Without the doctrine, absolutely garbage. The doctrine should have just been reduced. Like what they should have done, reduce the effect of the doctrine. Instead of 8 seconds, make it 2. It is stupid that it's 8 seconds for a 10-second ability. You basically remove 80% of the cooldown with a single doctrine. You increase the, how to say, uptime by 5 times the amount. That's ridiculous. This is like as if I reduced the for freedom. Um. Oh no, that's not a good example. Oh man, what's a good example? Oh, a good example. If I reduce the Sylladar's, Death Strike cooldown from 30 seconds to 6, that's 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 exactly what happened. That's the exact same thing. And if I reduce, you know how ridiculous that even sounds? Reducing the Death Strike to 6 seconds. Now, I don't really much care about their speed of moving and deploying artillery. Honestly, reducing the hassle of being able to deploy these things, great. I think that getting these guys out on the field should be easy, should be possible, and shouldn't actually require that much attention by the hero. They should be able to defend themselves. Is my first uh, worry, because in a game where people only rely on themselves, it's kind of stupid to have a unit that's so heavily reliant on teams. Reducing the range makes this almost guaranteed, because not only are you a slow as ranged unit, you also require to deploy the artillery. That makes you even slower. Do mind that, like, I think they only have like a two. I think they get like a 50% speed reduction when they have artillery out and they try to move it. So it is what it is. The Lions Roar crew. I'm very interested to see how how it feels to use on the PTR. My guess is that it's going to feel like garbage now because of the damage reduction. The distance will be the most important thing to take away. I'm going to have to gauge what what they're kind of capable of at certain ranges, and I'm pretty sure they've reduced it to the point where, unless they're shooting into a very dense pile within 40 meters probably, they're not going to do very much damage, which is upsetting. But I mean, it's better than the alternative. It's better than the alternative. So, finally, they also rune optimization for the conviction of Enios. Enios? Enios? Okay. For those of you that can actually, like, pronounce words, don't crucify me, please. The rune will be sent to you automatically, and you can equip it immediately after putting on your equipment. You can press P to open the character interface, right-click your armor to open the armor rune equipping interface, press the rune slot, find the conviction of strength rune, right right side column and equip it. Conviction of, so this is the actual rune optimization. So as you can see here, you can know whether the conviction of Ezreal's rune of enemies and allies is in effect from the UI on the profession icon above their heads. Also, you can know whether your enemy and allies are equipped with the conviction of Ezreal's rune from the UI on the profession icon above their head. Again, I agree with a lot of people. This rune shouldn't exist. It doesn't need to exist. And I stress, doesn't need to exist, because this only tries to solve a problem, which is strictly a balance issue. There is no reason for anything that's related to balance that needs to be fixed. I mean, doesn't this rune doesn't need to exist for any other reason besides to fix a balance issue that they refuse to fix. Heroes are dying like flies. Heroes have low impact and units are just killing heroes instantly. Heroes can have amazing impact sometimes, but the units that they're good against are normally susceptible to CC and nominally weak in terms of defensive term in nominally weak in terms of like damage or well, mostly just damage. So like if you're a heavy shield unit, you just get wailed on like crazy. Um, that's the only way to keep anything off you. And again, a lot of units don't do anything to heroes, which I think is a big problem. I think units, especially heavy shield units, need more CC and need to knock heroes away, knock units away. There are too many offensive type units that deal CC and just destroy units with damage. Not enough defensive units that are either protected against CC or protected with their own CC. And again, their defensive value is garbage. Garbage in comparison to just raw damage. Because damage is way more powerful, way more impactful than just being tanky. Still, this invulnerability rune, people are going to complain about it. The fact that it's only for light and mediums feels like a swipe at heavies. Again, heavies didn't really matter too much. They were going to go back in anyway. Just because they escaped doesn't like. There are some abuse cases. Longsword, Nodachi. Those are the only two real guys that would actually abuse this doctrine to any reasonable extent. First of all, because they have sustain. 1 second is enough for Longsword to activate the heal ability. 1 second is long enough for Nodachi to do a Dragon Fleet or an attack. I've seen a Nodachi hit an entire unit and heal straight back up to 100% after getting that 1 second. I've seen a Nodachi get that 1 second of invulnerability, whip out Avalanche, and he's not killable for the next 20 seconds. All of this is just balance issue, and how they're doing this is not my favorite. Definitely not my favorite. I wish we got more from the Lionroar crew instead of just lambasting them to absolute gutter. Because they have garbage for ammo now, they have garbage for range, and it's going to be looking like garbage for damage. Defensive shooting, not even on the table. Swinefeathers, super overloaded with triple shooting, going to need the doctrine as well. If you don't have the fire penetration doctrine, this unit actually might not even be worth it. Actually, the strength of the spears is highly dependent on if you have access to them. And from what I understand, they've changed it. So instead of them getting the spears back every 60 seconds, they need to return to a supply point and pick up a new spear. And they also reduce the overall cooldown to like, uh, or maybe that was just a UI bug. I just think there is so much issues to do with this unit that could be fixed, that needs to be addressed, instead of just throwing out a unit that's going to have a lot of things that are required, especially that fire penetration doctrine, and people are just not going to like using it because it's weak. And I mean, like they already buffed the Rata Pistoliers to the stratosphere, I mean, I say Stratosphere. They're already very strong. They did nothing to their damage. What they did was fix their targeting, fix their health. And I mean, fix their health. They increased their health by like 50%. That was crazy amount. Anyway, that's all for the PTR update. I know I've just been rambling on for a while, but it is what I want to say when it comes to balance changes, especially when it comes to the PTR. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and please, please tell the devs what you want from Conqueror's Blade, because I don't see any other way to try to get to the developers except trying to tell them. I feel like it's useless. I'm still trying. I don't think it's working. So until I give up, I'm going to keep trying. Really somber note right there. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video, but other than that, my name is Jessica. Have a nice day. Bye for now.